Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It was just the other day in May 2020, we launched two significant events for our members, that of resumption of the publication of newsletters and eConnect virtual meeting over Zoom to keep in regular touch with our members during the difficult days of the lockdown. Even before one could say Jack Robinson, a full year has passed by in a jiffy, leaving us celebrating the first anniversary of these two events this month. What was in our drawing board is now a reality. In the next 7 minutes or less, we will quickly review the highlights. The newsletter number 1 of 2020 was named the Lockdown Issue. It was released on 3rd of May 2020. The newsletter number 2 of 2020 was the Independence Day issue, released on August 15th, 2020. Newsletter number 3 of 2020 was the Vijay Diwas issue, released on the 16th of December 2020. And newsletter number 1 of 2021 was the Tamil New Year's Day issue. It was released on April 14, 2021. The net result of the committee's overall effort in this direction is that we have published about 650 compiled and edited content from our members spread across 4 quarterly issues. The committee would also like to remind all members that the date of next issue of the newsletter is July 26th. It is the Kargil Vijay Diwas issue. Let us now turn our attention to the other significant activity, that of eConnect events that kept us engaged through many weekends in the last 1 year. The eConnect program was started as an experiment during May last year. Our very first subject was theatre, and the famous personality Mr. Y.G. Mahendra talked to us on the 17th of May. On the subject of music, we have had 3 talks in all. First it was M.S. Rasika Shekhar, the young and budding international artist, followed by the one and only Dr. Sudha Raghunathan, and later by the incomparable Shankar Mahadevan. The next subject was about a piece of history pertaining to our very own Madras. It was by Mr. Sriram of Madras Musings. On the subject of space exploration, we had 3 talks in all. The first was by Professor Dr. K. Kanapati, followed by the pride of the nation, Wing Commander Rakesh Sharma, and quite recently, a very hands-on account by Dr. Y.V.N. Krishnamurthy, formerly of the ISRO. Adventure travel was the next subject that we took up. Ms. Meenakshi Arvind spoke to us about her exhilarating driving experience covering 28,000 kilometers from Coimbatore to London. The India-China Connect was the next subject. It was handled very well by Mr. C. Balasubramanian, a research analyst with the Chennai Center of China Studies. We have had 2 sessions on a subject very close to our heart, that of ECHS. The incumbent directors of the ECHS Regional Center spoke to us. The first was by Colonel Sandeep Kumar during July 2020, and the next was by Colonel Sashikant Tumma during March 2021. On the subject of wildlife photography, we had 2 eminent hands-on professionals talking to us. The first was by Ms. Ratika Ramasamy, followed by Mr. Alphonse Roy. The need to add a local flavor took center stage next. The celebrated Harikatha artist, Srimati Vishaka Hari, spoke with much patriotic fervor to the veterans on the courage and valor of the Indian women during the medieval times. The contemporary environmental issue of water conservation was covered very well by Professor Janakarajan, an international expert on water management. Dr. Roop Gursahani, an authority on the subject of living will, spoke to us about this socially relevant and most sensitive issue and highlighted the need for suitable legislation. In a very engaging session, the Chennai-based and most popular media professional, Mr. Sanjay Pinto, covered the topic of trial by media. Broadly covering the history of the Cholas during 10th and 11th centuries, Mr. Madhusudanan Kalaiselvan spoke about the campaigns of the great emperor Rajendra Chola. The vexing issue of cybercrime plaguing the digital era was amply illustrated by Mr. Ramaswamy, a hands-on professional engaged in the business of investigating such crimes. The armed forces personnel go to the Siachen Glacier as part of the duty, but Mr. Harish Kapadia has been doing it out of passion. We heard his first-hand account of his visits to the glacier. The international celebrity on the Formula One racing circuit under Chennai 8, Mr. Karan Chandok, spoke to the veterans about his life's journey so far. Who doesn't like cinema? More so in a state that has witnessed cinema influencing the politics too. The history of cinema was covered chronologically and comprehensively by the famous media personality M.S. Shailaja Chetlur. M.S. Sheila Jayavant, the reputed author and columnist, inspired the wannabe writers, the fence-sitters and the uninitiated on how to get started on the art of writing. The veterans were treated to a morning of unadulterated grace through a leg-warm session by none other than M.S. Rama Vaidyanathan, the noted dancer, who articulated the nuances of the art form beautifully. That Antarctica is more than just penguins and icebergs was brought out very well by Dr. Aparna Lal, the Australia-based professor of biology. Bharatvarsh is indeed rich in traditions and innovations. The veterans were treated to an enthralling session of the original board games designed by our ancestors by M.S. Vinita Siddhartha, who is actively reviving those games among the current generation of children. Digging up the past and establishing historical evidences have always captivated human attention through the ages. In a very interesting and an interactive session, M.S. Devika Karyappa took us all on a journey in the specialist subject of archaeology. That duck, 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 duck exhaust sound of the Royal Enfield bullet. Who among us did not want to own it? The history of the bike and its manufacturer was traced till date by the bullet enthusiast Mr. Amrit Raj, the author of the book on his passion. For the benefit of our veterans, Commander Sudhir Dua of the Sainik Seva Samiti Mumbai presented the details of the group Mediclaim policy launched in association with the New India Assurance Company. The Train 18 project of the Indian Railways took the nation by storm for the speed of implementation as well as the total indigenous effort involved. Mr. Sudhanshu Mani, formerly of the ICF and the chief architect of the project, spoke to the veterans on the highlights of the project. The world of magic has progressed leaps and bounds in the digital era and is successfully creating digital illusions for the current generation of digital natives. Mr. Rahul Karbanda transported us to our childhood memories by performing magical illusions. Srimati Chandrakanta Ghariali, formerly of the IAS, now based out of Australia, spoke to the veterans on the emotive issue of the plight of the Kashmiri Pandits as brought out in a book, Kashmir, the Land of Kashyapa, the saga of the Kashmiri Pandits. The managing committee has staged 33 eConnect events so far. The recording of most of the events are available in our YouTube channel. That accounts for a cumulative total of approximately 65 hours of recording. On the occasion of the first anniversary of these two significant events, the President and the members of the Managing Committee thank all members of the association for their lively and active participation and seek the members' continued patronage for the success of the association's ventures in future too. Jai Hind.